Boys, welcome back to the 16th episode of the Herm Cet Show, a weekly podcast where we talk about all things basketball, including news, updates, and hot takes, which is kind of the theme of today as we talk about 10 bold predictions for this NBA season. We're excited for it. You know, I'm Nate Herman, and this is Ethan Seton, my co-host. E, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I've been so excited for this episode all week. This is my thing.
Yeah, you know, hey, NBA season only what, like 2 days away?
We're
We're very excited. It's right around the corner. But we'll get right into the bold predictions. I'll start us off with number one. If he plays 65 games, Anthony Davis wins MVP. That's what we're rolling with. That's what I have off the start. The stretch last season really moved me. I'll bring it to that. Anthony Davis last season without LeBron averaged like 28 and 15. He was a monster on the boards. He finally committed to the center position last season. He said, fine, I'll play down low. You know, the shot isn't falling. I'll stop taking it. I'll bully in the post. You know, I look at some of these other centers. Who's stopping him? Yusuf Nurkic? Like, what are we doing? LeBron says it's Anthony Davis's team, and I think he's ready to claim the title as a top 5 player in the league once again.
You know, I love Anthony Davis. I love the Lakers.
Yeah.
I have my Davis shirt, But when I think of Anthony Davis, I think of someone that has the bones of my great-grandmother.
Sure.
And if Anthony Davis somehow reconstructed the bones in his body this offseason, had special procedures, I could see that happening if he plays 65-plus games and averages 28 points per game and averages 4 blocks.
But he might average 3.
He might average 3.
Yeah.
I think he could do that.
Yeah.
Do you think, how many points per game do you think he's going to score?
It's going to be tough because there are a lot of guys on this Lakers team that can score, whether it's Reeves or D'Lo or Rui. You have all these guys that aren't stars on the team per se, but can still get a lot of buckets. So I think in some ways that might take away from his points. But I think there's a pretty strong case he averages like at least 27. It's probably 27, 28, but with all the rebounds, with the blocks, because I think there's a pretty strong argument that he's the best defensive player in the league. I think there's probably a stronger argument for that than him winning MVP, but I think that could help boost his MVP case and help him get into that range.
Yeah, I think his defense has to carry. I had 25.5 points in mind for him. But I think if we see him getting some more load on offense, I do not count out 27 or 28.
It looks like LeBron is trying to get a little more passive. I think he's trying to give up some of the duties.
Sure.
So if he drops from like the 29 he averaged last year to more like 25 or something like that, we could see AD take a step up a couple points and kind of get that. But if you're looking at other kind of surprise MVP candidates, do you have anyone you want to throw in there?
Well, I think of MVP, and I think of someone who is underappreciated. I don't think
that's what the award is.
I think of someone right now that's underappreciated.
Yeah, okay.
I think of someone who's been cast aside. Someone who's been thrown into the shadows.
I don't know where this is going.
And when I think of someone that is going to emerge as one of the best players in the league this year, I think of my broken crayon that can still color. Jordan Poole is going to make the All-Star team.
Sure.
MVP and is going to be top 10 in MVP voting this year.
That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous.
Top 10 in MVP voting for Jordan Poole. He's making the All-Star team. He's going to average 27.5 points per game this upcoming year.
Yeah.
And I promise you guys at home are going to be shocked at the pool party that's going to happen in Washington, D.C. Flood the streets because the pool party is coming to a arena near you.
I talked about Jordan Poole recently in a video, actually. And I don't think the scoring stuff is crazy because I looked at it, and even though last year he wasn't super efficient, right? It wasn't his best efficiency season he's had. Like people like Kevin Garnett, they're saying this guy's going to shoot 25 shots a game. If you take his points per shot last season, flex it to 25, add like 5 free throws because, that's kind of what Harden did when he got in more of a lead role, he would average 36 points per game on the same exact efficiency.
I love that.
If he took 25 shots per.
And it's going to happen.
And that's assuming the efficiency doesn't get better, which it could. Do I think Jordan Poole is going to average 40 points a game? No. Do I think he's going to average 30? I think that even that might be slight long shot.
I said 27
but
and a half.
I think 27 and a half is somewhat reasonable. His teammates already hate him. I saw another podcast.
Denny Avni.
They were talking about who would be the odds-on favorite to punch Poole first of the guys on the Wizards roster. Shout out those guys. But I think Denny is probably the leading favorite right now. But I saw Taj Gibson was one of their other favorites.
I think Taj
Gristled
Gibson
veteran.
is Taj Gibson. I would not be shocked if we saw a bench altercation mid-season with Taj absolutely throwing that right hand. But anyways, my last thing about Jordan Poole. He's going to get up shots, and he's going to make a lot of threes, and he's going to be dancing. And when the baddies are courtside, he's getting buckets.
Yeah, that team might not be good, but I can tell you right now, Poole and Kuzma is going to be very fun to watch.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It'll be kind of high in the league pass rankings, I think. If you're looking at teams to watch, you say, I love these guys scoring, Let them go get their buckets. They're going to be bad. I'm just going to say they're going to be bad. But they got a bunch of different guys. Bilal, cool, too. Bilal Koulibaly. Yes. Everybody likes the French.
Has he gotten his driver's license yet?
Do we know? I'm unsure on that. You'll have to let us know in the comments below. But I'll take us to my second bold prediction, the third one overall.
Okay.
I think that the Boston Celtics will be the first team to have 4 All-Stars since the Warriors in 2018. That's what I'm going with. I told you they were hot. You weren't ready. But the Celtics,
Goodness.
The Celtics in the preseason looked absolutely unstoppable. It's like one of the best starting lineups we've seen in a long time. When you look at Derek White, Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown, Tatum, and Porzingis, every single one of those guys can take people one-on-one. They just can. So if you're looking at All-Stars, both Tatum and JB are both clear kind of perennial All-Star guys right now. Porzingis has looked like their second best player. Drew Holiday was an All-Star last season, and Derek White is like the step below an All-Star. If you watch him in the playoffs, that dude is a bucket. Derek White is a bucket.
We watched him.
He was second team All-Defense last season. He does a lot of different things. So I think more likely than not, they have 3 All-Stars. I think they're going to be the 1 seed in the East. But I think I would lock in that Tatum, Brown, and Porzingis all make the All-Star game this season.
Sorry, for the viewers at home, this is my left hand.
Yeah.
And this is something that Jaylen Brown does not have.
He does not.
And Jaylen Brown, he might average 23 points per game.
He averaged 27 last year.
I'm talking about this year.
Sure.
23 points per game. And it's all going to be with his right hand. Because I saw him practicing his left hand the other week in a Bleacher Report video, and it's still garbage. It's terrible.
It was very bad. But in some ways, does that make it more impressive that he can drop almost 30 on your head without a use of one hand altogether? He's basically Hanson Emmanuel with one arm. That's all he's doing out here. He's going to be a bucket getter with one arm, and you still can't stop him. Those brothers out there still cannot stop him. Jaylen Brown averaged 27 and 7 last season, and when the Celtics went to the finals, I don't even think it's arguable he was their best player in that series.
That's facts. Tatum did not show up.
So we've seen Jaylen Brown as a very high-level player. He does have clear flaws. I think that's totally agreeable. But that doesn't matter because KP is their second-best player,
Kristaps Porzingis has emerged.
He's moving
again.
different.
I love watching Kristaps Porzingis throw it down once again.
I was talking about him. I'm like, everybody talks about Wemby and they talk about Chet and these guys.
Yeah.
But Porzingis was the unicorn first.
Exactly.
He's 7'3". He's blocking shots. He's doing everything. I'm excited to watch it because they had guys like Grant Williams and Sam Hauser and Marcus Smart hitting threes for them because Tatum has a lot of gravity. He charges downhill and it kind of draws in the defenders. And if you're just going to give Porzingis a ton of open looks, he's going to hit them and he's going to score a lot of points. But, I'm sure you don't love that one. But I want to remind you that the Hawks once had 4 All-Stars in the teens. During LeBron's era, the Hawks had 4 All-Stars with Horford, Korver, Millsap, and Jeff Teague.
Jeff Teague's my man. I love Jeff Teague.
If the Hawks can do it, I think this Celtics team has a decent shot at it. So that I'll give it to you, though. I'll let you have one.
I feel like this take isn't going to be as bold because he just said that.
Yeah, Ethan's on the semi-bold podcast.
I know. I normally make these crazy takes throughout, and then he's out here.
It's me today. I said bold. I'm keeping it bold.
He said that Derek White's going to be an all-star.
I said Derek White is a step below an all-star.
Anyways, back to my portion of this. I'd like to take us down to Disney World. I'd like us to view one of the greatest basketball players.
This is crazier than either of mine.
On the planet. Someone that I talk about every single podcast. I make sure to speak about him because he is one of the best, one of the funniest, and one of the most electric players you will find on a basketball court. Cole Anthony will be Sixth Man of the Year, and Cole Anthony will prove the doubters wrong, such as this guy right here when he said, Cole Anthony isn't even the third best guard on this Orlando Magic team.
Gary Harris.
Cole Anthony. Cole Anthony has been working on his shooting this offseason. I've seen him explosive in the gym. In the preseason, we saw him have a couple double-digit scoring games. Off the bench with this exciting Orlando Magic team, do not be shocked if Cole Anthony is the spark plug, just like Lou Williams was years ago when he won all those Sixth Man of the Years. Cole Anthony is going to be the most electric and bouncy Sixth Man of the Year that we've had in a while.
I think the Magic kind of have to overachieve for that to be possible. I feel like your team has to be pretty solid to have the Sixth Man of the Year, right?
Well,
if we're looking at it, like there's been a lot of teams that are kind of like okay and have had the Sixth Man.
Sure.
Like Lou Williams on those Clippers teams.
Yeah.
You know, they're in like the middle of the playoff picture, you know.
Absolutely.
Or Jordan Clarkson on that Jazz team. Maybe that was the year they were the 1 seed, I don't know. But Jordan Clarkson was good that year. So to do that, he's probably going to have to average, what, like 18 points a game at least, something like that?
I think I had him around 15 to 17.
Do you think that gets it?
I think that absolutely gets it when you factor in his rebounding as a guard. He's going to get a bunch of steals.
Yep.
And I think he's also going to be playmaking more. Like we've seen, you know, I think that's something that's been elusive to him in the first few years is the playmaking. But, you know, when you're in that, you know, lead six-man spot, I think playmaking has to be an asset.
Oh, yeah, he's totally in charge of the second unit. I think that's for sure.
Yeah.
It's completely on him to do that. But I think we're going to have to see a little more defense outside of just the steals. Like Brogdon last year, who was the Sixth Man of the Year, really good defensively. He's a very good defensive player. So was Emmanuel Quickly, actually. He was very good defensively last season.
Yeah.
So it's been kind of a shift from what we've seen in the past. Because a lot of times in the past, those six men, they were just bucket getters. They're coming in, they're getting buckets. That's like a Bones Highland type would be the guys that used to win Sixth Man of the Year. But now they're like two-way guys. They do all these different things. So we'll see what it looks like for Cole, you know. But
I have utmost faith in my boy.
I did tell you he was a preseason standout for them.
He was a preseason standout.
He's been putting in work, yeah, for sure. But I'll take us
I told you so.
I'll take us to our fifth bold prediction. I know you're very excited because mine are really out of pocket now.
They are out of pocket.
But I'm going to tell you, I think that the Charlotte Hornets will make the playoffs. That is my third bold prediction.
We just did a podcast saying that they were going to be the 14th seed.
This is a bold prediction. You know? My bold prediction, the Hornets will make the playoffs. Last time they had Miles Bridges, they were a play-in team. Since that point, they have added Brandon Miller and Mark Williams. So they have these two elite young talents in the door, and LaMelo's gotten better since that point too. So if Bridges is even anything like what we saw before, I think they're going to be pretty good and a little bit better than people think. Because Hayward also has looked pretty solid this preseason. Everybody loves Gordo. You know, he's out there.
Love that dude.
He's balling. You know, Terry Rozier is still a bucket getter. That's what he does. And P.J. Washington quietly has been very good for them, and he just continues to get better. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with their forwards, whether it's Hayward and Bridges starting, or if they want to start Hayward and Washington, or maybe they want to start Miller at one of those forward spots. But it'll be interesting to see what they do. But they are kind of like perennially a play-in team for those couple of years where they had Bridges and LaMelo as their top two. And I think you could make an argument that the East has gotten better since that point. I think that would be the strongest argument against them being that level again. But I think the Hornets are a very fun team, and I think they're a little better than people are giving them credit for.
You know, I think LaMelo, he is an all-star player, and I think he's an all-star this year.
Yep.
And Gordon Hayward, if he goes back to prime 2017 Gordon Hayward, I think things happen for them. And I like Terry Rozier. I like P.J. Washington. I'm high on Brandon Miller.
Yeah.
think Brandon Miller is so much better than the Thompson twins. I cannot explain to you
I
how.
love the Thompson twins.
I hate the Thompson twins. Go. Brandon Miller is Michael Jordan compared to the Thompson twins.
No, the Thompson twins are crazy. Those are some high-level athletes, man.
At your local YMCA, they're crazy.
No. I've seen them in the preseason. These are NBA athletes.
Brandon Miller is a sniper from three.
He hasn't been.
But I this season.
I just talked about rookies in today's video. It'll be yesterday by the time this pod comes out. Brandon Miller in the preseason shot 8%.
I don't care. I do not care.
That's insane.
It's preseason.
Sure.
It's preseason for a rookie.
It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. You're right.
That's like asking a college freshman in their first stinking college start on the mound to go out there and pitch 9 innings and give up no hits.
Asking a college freshman to put up that 4.0. You know, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, for real. Exactly. It's that expectations way too high by this guy. Brandon Miller's going to come out. He's going to shoot 34% from 3 this year, and we're going to be happy.
It's probably better than Paolo last year, so you'll take it.
Yeah, first team All-Rookie for Brandon Miller.
Okay.
So I can...
That's almost a bold prediction in itself.
Look at this. I am making bold predictions. Going back to your original take on the Charlotte Hornets.
Sure.
The 10th seed at the highest.
At the highest.
At the highest.
Wow.
For them.
You know, I've debated making this video for a few days now about the purple shirt man. You remember that? The playoffs. They went to the playoffs with Kemba Walker. That was the last time they're in the playoffs. Yeah. And this dude in a purple shirt wearing his G League Swarm headband got into a back and forth with Dwayne Wade. And the Hornets have been trash ever since. Not that they were great before that either. But to be fair, you know, they never really recovered from that moment.
Ever since they got rid of Jeremy Lin, they've just fallen off.
The curse of, you know, getting rid of Jeremy Lin and the purple shirt man. You know? It's too much for the Hornets. But
bold prediction: Lin's sanity comes back to the NBA this year.
Okay, we'll give it to you for a real bold prediction. Okay. You can take it.
Real bold prediction this year. We talk about the Lakers. We talk about Anthony Davis. We talk about LeBron James. And there are questions going into this year. Where will they fall in the West? The Suns got better. You know, the Clippers got better. The Warriors, they got better. But I think that the Lakers are going to overcome the odds, and they are going to find themselves in the Western Conference Finals. But then wait, they are going to make the NBA Finals this year. That's my big, bold prediction for the Lakers. They're going to make the NBA Finals. And I could go even a step further if I want to, because we're getting bold here. The Lakers will win the NBA Finals against the Milwaukee Bucks because the Celtics are a fake good team.
Okay.
And Derek White is not an All-Star. Jaylen Brown not making the All-Star team this year. Kristaps Porzingis is not making the All-Star team this year. Jason Tatum going to get hurt with an Achilles injury. He's not making the All-Star team this year.
That's a crazy prediction to have.
They're going to fall down to 7th in the East. And the Lakers are going to make the finals. You heard it here first. I think I can't even be serious with this guy.
This is ridiculous Celtics takes.
No, this is the full prediction here. This is all one prediction. This is all going to happen.
That's a very large prediction.
I'll see you guys when the Lakers make the finals.
And every Celtics player missed the All-Star game, and
they're missing.
Tore his Achilles apparently. So
come back to the video. Excuse me,
here.
Viewers at home. Before we go any further, who predicted Victor Wembanyama's first 2 Summer League games perfectly?
A lot of people said that was not a real prediction. You just said
no. That's not.
You just said either thing could happen.
There's no way that you're trashing on me for that.
I'm not. I sided with you.
You sided with me so much in the comments.
I agree that you did predict his preseason games.
The first 2 ones statistically were almost perfect. It was almost perfect.
It was impressive, but I don't think that the Celtics hate makes any sense.
I will go.
I'm a
to my
Lakers
grave.
Guy, but the Celtics hate is ridiculous.
I will go to the grave on it.
But I'm not going to argue on the Lakers title winning this season.
Good.
You know, legitimate top 3 now. Austin Reeves, one of the top 3 guys.
He's going to make 2 3-pointers in that first game of the season against the Nuggets. Over 1.5.
Austin Reeves, over or under 20 points per game this season, you think?
Under.
Under. Ooh, we're kind of shorting Austin Reeves here.
I'm sorry, but he's going to make 2 3-pointers per game. But he's not averaging 20.
That's only 6 points,
But he's going to find ways to get to the
free throw merchant.
Line. Yeah, see? We just have free throw at the same time.
You see that crazy kick that he had in that one preseason game?
No, I did
He
not.
tried to take the hit. He went right and faded away and kicked his leg up in the air. It looked pretty bad.
I didn't see that.
It was a bad flop from Austin Reeves, but he's learning from the king. The king of flopping himself.
Exactly.
But the Lakers very deep. I called them the deepest team in the West. I think that's a fair assessment.
Minus Torian Prince.
But he's gonna start. You hear that?
I did hear that.
Yeah.
That's so bad.
The Suns have a lot of depth too, but the Suns' depth I don't think is quite as high level as a lot of the Lakers' depth pieces. Because if they start Torian, inexplicably, then they have Rui off the bench, they have Vandal off the bench, Gabe Vincent, who was a top 3 player for the Heat in the conference finals last year, is coming off the bench. So I think the Lakers have a lot of guys. A lot of people really like Colin Castleton as a backup big. Has been kind of good. Yeah. He's bruising, Jackson Hayes,
I love Jackson Hayes.
Shout out Christian Wood. I know your dad is a big Christian Wood.
Yes, big Christian Wood fan.
So, they got a lot of guys. And I think if we're being serious, every single game with the Nuggets last playoffs was close. And the Nuggets probably got worse while the Lakers got better. So I think that's a good sign, Maybe a lot of you are big Julian Strother truthers out there, 18 points a game for the Nuggets in the preseason. But the Lakers, I think, got better while the Nuggets probably did slightly regress. Yeah. So I think that bodes well for the Lakers taking that next step. And I want to take us to Houston for my next bold prediction.
Interesting.
This is not a playoff prediction. I know we're not going to get that crazy again.
Okay.
You can't go Hornets and Rockets make the playoffs. That's too much, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think Jabari Smith Jr. ends this season as the Rockets' best player. I've loved everything that I've seen from Jabari, whether it's Summer League, whether it's preseason. I think he's done a really good job at improving a lot of parts of his game. And with Fred VanVleet there, I think he's going to get the ball more often because that was the biggest problem last year. They just did not pass him the ball. Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green were going to cook, and that's all they were going to do. They weren't going to pass it, but Fred might pass it at least a little bit. So I think that's good for Jabari. He's putting up almost 20 points a game in the preseason, I think. I really liked what I've seen from him. He can space the floor. He's a really good defender, and I just think he's a solid NBA player.
Yeah, he was fantastic in the Summer League.
He was great. It was 2 30 pieces, right?
Yeah,
and he had a game winner?
Yeah, he had that game winner in the first game. Mm-hmm. And then he played those 2 games, and he said, I'm going to head out.
Yeah, I'm too good for here.
Yeah, I'm too good, But I can get behind that bold prediction with him, being the best player.
Mm-hmm.
I am not a Jalen Green fan. I dislike Jalen Green.
He's a scorer.
He's a selfish basketball player. And
TikTok Hooper, that's what some people might call him.
Oh, I like that. TikTok Hooper, kind of like the Thompson twins. But Jabari Smith Jr., I think he's gonna work down low. Mm-hmm. He's gonna be able to pass the ball too, which is kind of cool.
Yep.
And I like his shooting. He's gonna continue working on that. Mm-hmm. And I think we're gonna watch a bunch of Rockets games this year, and he's gonna be the go-to for the majority of them. Along with Dylan Brooks, Dylan the villain. I am Dylan the villain.
Let it be known.
But yeah, I can get behind that one.
Yeah,
that's good.
I think there are a few guys that'll be in contention for it. Probably most people would lean towards Fred VanVleet. He's got that massive contract.
Yeah.
Jalen Green's probably in the running as much flag as he gets, whatever.
Yeah.
But Alperen Sengun, very good as a center. He could be in the race for that. Mm-hmm. And Dylan Brooks, if any offense comes around, maybe he's in that too. But Jabari Smith Jr. kind of reminds me of like a Brandon Ingram light almost in the way that he kind of isolates, takes off the dribble, can shoot over. He's pretty tall himself. He's either 6'10 or 6'11, something like that. But Jabari Smith, just a really solid all-around guy. And last year, early on, people were already calling him a bust, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, that was crazy.
But the shooting just keeps getting better and better. I think it's going to kind of come back towards what people thought it would be when he was getting drafted. And people forget he was in the conversation for being the number 1 pick. A lot of people thought he would be the number 1 pick until draft night when they're like, oh, it's Paolo now, which looks like the right pick right now. Paolo's great, but Jabari I think is pretty great in his own right. You want to take us?
Yeah, I'll take us to the next prediction here. I was just trying to think about how to frame this. We have a lot of viewers on this podcast, road to 1 million. We're getting really, really close.
Yep, right there.
And, one of our good friends who watches this podcast religiously. You know, he happens to be an NBA player.
Yeah.
And, you know, this man, he's a scorer, as we've seen here recently in the Summer League and in the preseason. And this year he's going to take that leap forward as one of the main guys in the NBA. Friend of the podcast, Keegan Murray, will be on the All-Star team this year.
All-Star team.
Keegan Murray will make friend of the pod. We are in full support of Keegan Murray. This is a mutual thing.
Yep.
Keegan Murray is going to average 22 a game.
He could totally do that.
And he's going to be on the Western Conference All-Star team.
I am a big fan of Keegan's game. He does a lot of things well. He was, I believe, hit the most threes all time as a rookie last season. I believe he set the record. Yeah. Really great at spacing the floor. They have a great offense. Did not average 20 last year. I think it's probably more around 15, something like that. But he's looked great in both the preseason and Summer League. Like Jabari was dominant in the Summer League. I think it's in a very similar vein, those two players. And quietly, that draft is really, really good at the top when you look back. And it's like really Paolo, Chat, Jabari, and Keegan right as the top four. You have Benedict Mathurin at 6. There's a lot of good talents in that draft class.
Who's at 5?
Jaden Ivey, who's kind of... I'd start Asar over him. I know you're an Asar hater. But
I might have to get behind that, to be honest.
Yeah, but Keegan is great. I think it's hard for him to stake a claim as like the second best player on this team, even because they already have two clear guys with Fox and Sabonis, who were awesome last season. You know, Fox clutch player of the year, and Sabonis was just, kind of like a Jokic light. That's what he does.
Sure.
As like a leader of the offense as a big man. But the two of them are great, but I think Keegan can really assert himself as like the clear third guy in a trio there. Kind of leave Harrison Barnes in the dust. A lot of people liked Harrison for them last year.
I think he's going to be the second guy this
I think he's going to pass Kevin Huerter too. If you're talking about offensively, I totally believe like as a scoring threat, he can like leapfrog Sabonis relatively easily.
Yeah.
But Sabonis, I think all around with everything he does passing wise, will probably be a better player. But Keegan, I think, could be like the second leading scorer for this team totally. He's a really good offensive player.
I agree. I think he's going to get to the basket more easily. That was the emphasis, coming into this year. Can he get to the basket?
We saw it in Summer League. He's actually a really good isolation player.
Yeah. And
like people didn't really think about that in the past. They're like, oh, he's just going to sit in the corner and catch threes. But he does a really good job of creating for himself off the dribble.
Yeah, and if he can translate what we saw in the Summer League, I think that the 22 points a game mark that we're talking about can easily be achieved. You combine his quality 3-point shooting with the ability to attack the rim, get to the bucket easily, and get to the free throw line. 22 is going to be easy for him.
Yeah, I think it's totally possible. I'll take us into my last bold prediction, number 9 on our predictions list.
Okay.
And I'll take it to the Atlanta Hawks, who I think will have home court advantage in this year's playoffs. The only time I don't think they've had home court advantage actually in this Trae Young era, because when they went on that run to the conference finals, I think they were a 6th seed, and they kind of did it as like a Cinderella type of team, But the Hawks, I really like what they've done. I think moving off John Collins might be addition by subtraction. And I'm not even like an anti-John Collins guy. I like him, but the chemistry there was just it had deteriorated to a pretty bad point.
It's because he took performance-enhancing drugs.
That might be it. Suspended 25 games. So did Ayton. Nobody remembers that.
Yeah, nobody remembers that, bro. Like, everyone's like, oh, Ayton's great.
Yeah, nobody talks about that with Ayton. They only talk about it with John Collins. But Ayton did do that. But we'll move back to Atlanta. Trae Young, I think his efficiency should get back towards what we've seen in the past.
How many three-pointers do you think Trae Young is going to drop in the first game of the year against the Hornets?
The Hornets aren't great defensively in the backcourt, Rozier and LaMelo are not great defenders. So do you know what the over/under is?
I think, it was an extremely low line for him to make.
I thought it might be like 4.5 or something like. I thought it was going to be high.
I think it's only like minus 120 for him to hit 2 3-pointers.
I think he'll hit 4 at least. Would be my guess.
That's what I thought. I didn't know if oh, he passes the ball only now. He doesn't shoot. I'm like,
I don't think that's true. You know,
what are they thinking?
You know, even with the new coach, I love Quinn Snyder. You know, we've been very complimentary of Quinn Snyder, and they kind of overachieved last year in the playoffs. They didn't win a series, but they really took the Celtics about as far as they could have. They took them to 6 games, and it was very competitive because a lot of people thought it would be a sweep. I think that was like the consensus is this is going to be a sweep. Atlanta's going to be out of here, but they steal 2 games. I know at least one of them was in Boston too, with a huge Trae Young game winner. I don't know if the game winner was in Boston or not, but it was a very good series from Trae Young, and it looked like the pairing of him and DeJounte had some promise because we need DeJounte to take a little step back towards what he was in San Antonio, where he was great there, did everything for them, made the All-Star game. But I think the combo in their second year is going to be a lot better. You know, I think people hoping on a DeAndre Hunter jump that's probably out the window. Capella, though, good center. And I like a lot of the young guys, whether it's Jalen Johnson, who I love as a do-it-all forward, or it's A.J. Griffin, or it's Sadiq Bey. I like a lot of their guys. Yep. Kobe Buffkin is a rookie, too. Is pretty good defensively. Is actually pretty similar to Kason Wallace, who's a guy that the Thunder took this year. A lot of people love him, but Buffkin doesn't get the same kind of love. But those 2 guys are similar, and I think the Hawks have a lot of different ways they can play and have a unique team. Even have Bogdanovic off the bench after a great World Cup with Serbia. So I like the Hawks team, and I think they might be a top 4 seed.
Yeah, I really like the Hawks too. I've been like a under the radar Hawks supporter for years now. I really like Trae Young, and like that's what I was talking about. I think he's a fantastic scorer, even from his days, in college at Oklahoma. Like people have been sleeping on Trae Young, saying, "Oh, he's not that good." But I mean, this Hawks team, a couple of years ago, a little more than a couple of years ago now, they were in the Eastern Conference Finals. Yeah, like they could make some noise if they put the pieces together.
They totally could. I like what they do, and hopefully they're better on both ends of the floor, but just more organized. I think that was the biggest problem with them before. With Lloyd Pierce and Nate McMillan, there wasn't a ton of organization with either guy. A lot of people will tell you neither coach was all that good, but Quinn Snyder, I think, does a great job. All of his Utah teams are very good on both ends of the floor and kind of always overachieved. So I'm expecting that with the Hawks this year, but we have a last bold prediction if you want to take us to it.
Last bold prediction here, and this is on somebody who has achieved greatness before and somebody who they've written off. I talked about Jordan Poole earlier, the broken crayon that still colors, and how he's going to have a perennial season.
Sure.
And, people on this man, they've said he's done. But I believe that the resurgence of Russell Westbrook is going to average a triple-double this year for the Los Angeles Clippers. He's going to be around 15, 12, and 10.
Sure.
And because here's why. They talk about load management. Kawhi Leonard does not care. Kawhi Leonard is going to play in 46 games this year.
Yeah.
My prediction for that. Paul George, I think he might play in 61. He's going to be around that 65 mark.
He'll miss the All-NBA requirement, though.
Yeah,
he's not going to hit that 65.
He's going to miss it. He's going to miss it. So 46 and 61. And people are like, oh, well, they have Terrence Mann. Terrence Mann is not going to do much. I assure you.
I cannot believe that that's the holdup in the James Harden trade, by the way.
Yeah.
Because they won't give up Terrence Mann.
Ship away Terrence Mann, please.
No offense to Terrence Mann. He's a fine player.
Yeah.
But he's not worth not getting James Harden.
I don't know what in the world why Terrence Mann is the holdup. But I truly believe that we saw towards the end of the last season, Russell Westbrook, especially even in the playoffs, he can play at the highest level that he's played at. And we saw spurts of it with the Lakers. Obviously, it didn't work out, unfortunately. But when the pieces are together and they put the ball in Russell Westbrook's hands, he can go out and give you 30 if he wants to, because he still has that talent in him. He can facilitate, and he's going to give you full-out hustle and grab rebounds. So I would not be shocked if he, in his utmost best effort, could average a 15, 12, and 10 triple-double this year.
Yeah, I think the points will be down. It's not going to be like those, 30-point triple-doubles of the past, or even that, I think it was like 22 points per game he averaged with the Wizards when he had a triple-double.
Yeah.
That's a quietly really underrated season, by the way.
That really
He had like 12 assists and 12 rebounds per game. Like, he very comfortably averaged a triple-double.
Bro, that was
People
awesome.
don't talk about that. There's like all these nights where he had like 20 and 20 all over the place.
Yeah, bro.
He was very fun to watch that Wizards year. People don't talk about it. But I think the points will be down. But I totally believe he could still put up all these assists because it's not like they have all these creators on the team. Terrence Mann is like the only other facilitator really because the backup point guard is Bones Highland, who's not going to be kicking it around.
Nope.
He's taking those shots himself.
Yeah.
So unless you're a big Robert Covington as a passer guy or Nick Batum, there's not a bunch of great passers on this team. So I think the assist number is pretty easy for Russ to get to if he has the ball in his hands. Like a relatively high usage amount. Yeah. I think he'll get the assists. Because the teammates aren't bad. He has like decent teammates who can hit shots.
Besides Nicholas Batum.
And even on that Wizards team, his teammates sucked and he still had all those assists. So I guess really it doesn't matter. Yeah. But Russ, I totally could see that and get a little respect back. He's in all these rankings. Yeah. He's in like the 70s or the 80s.
Trash.
Patrick Beverley's going on podcasts. He's talking about, he's like, this is garbage. What are you talking about? Mm-hmm. These people don't know ball. This guy was great in the playoffs. He's probably still a top 40 player in the league, realistically. Yeah. If you let him cook, let him get the ball type of thing.
Yeah, let him do his thing.
But I think he could totally get that. Quickly, before we get out of here, you want to run some quick award predictions for this season? We can run that?
Award predictions here.
Yeah, we go back and forth. I already gave you my MVP as Anthony Davis, so I'll open up the floor for you on MVP.
I think MVP this year is going to be, unfortunately, like this is a real take here. I think Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to win MVP. I see it happening. Yeah. It was the battle between Jokic and Embiid last year, and I don't think Giannis appreciated not being like that number one guy. I think you're going to see him work with Lillard. He's going to be probably the MVP if he puts the pieces together. My sixth man of the year is Cole Anthony, the greatest. I'm thinking about rookie of the year. I've been back and forth with Chet because I really like Chet, but like Wembanyama has been
ridiculous.
Crazy.
He's nutmegging people.
Yeah, he's been ridiculous. Yeah. I think Victor is going to get it. And defensive player of the year, I can get behind Anthony Davis doing that. I can get behind Anthony Davis doing that.
Yeah.
Who do you think is going to win the defensive player of the year?
It's hard for me to go Jaren Jackson Jr. I don't think he'll go back-to-back. I think that's tough to do. So Anthony Davis is probably my front runner. I think he's that great defensively. But, there are some other guys who could be in there. Whoever it's going to be. It's probably not Rudy Gobert at this point. I think that time's probably come and gone.
Yeah.
But I really like Clax. I know I'm a big Claxton guy.
I'm not a Claxton
hater. Could get in there.
You're just a big fan.
It depends how good the Nets are. If the Nets are solid, I think he could win it. But maybe, even a year older, we see Brook Lopez win his first Defensive Player of the Year. But Anthony Davis would be my favorite as well. I think that's the guy to take there. I don't know who I'd take for sixth man of the year. There's a lot of options, Yeah. It's kind of hard to pick that. I'll take quickly in a kind of take my award back type of year. Or dark horse, Talen Horton-Tucker. I like him as a sixth man.
Okay.
It's kind of like a bucket getter. All he does is score points,
That's
so
all his job is.
I'll take that. Rookie, I think, is definitely Wemby. I don't see anyone else it could be.
Yeah.
Maybe Chet gets in there. Don't want to say anything bad about Chet. I like Chet.
Yeah,
but
Chet's
Wemby's
good.
just that good. I think it's hard to do that. You got a most improved player? That's a tough one.
I thought about this.
Yeah.
This, most improved player. I saw a lot of people saying Ben Simmons could be the most improved player.
I think my cop-out would be Jabari. If I was going to take one, then your cop-out would have to be Keegan. But
yeah, Keegan Murray. Yeah. Keegan Murray would be a good pick. Let's think one off the dome here.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Anthony Simons.
That's a good one.
I think he might make an all-star team.
Yeah, I already said that I think he has a chance to be an all-star if they're even kind of decent because he's not Lillard, but he's like the closest you can get without being Lillard. I think really kind of absorbed everything that Lillard taught him in the years that they were together.
Because I don't think that they're gonna rely on Scoot right off the bat. You cannot just give him the ball and ask him to do everything. Like Anthony Simons is perfectly okay with going out and dropping 34 if he has to. And
he did average like 21 last year, so he'd have to take a pretty solid jump to take that, just based on points per game. I think
you
Desmond Bane
you give him up to 28 points per game.
Yeah, they might give it to him for that. They gave it to Shea on a similar jump like that a couple of years ago.
It's not always about, this. It's not always about the raw statistics.
Yep.
The impact that you have on a team. That's in the eyes of the people that vote. That is such a huge factor. Shea, he changed that culture.
Oh, for sure.
For OKC, and I think people right now are totally writing off the Portland Trailblazers, and they're just sell the team. It's a dead team.
I mean, Jody should sell the team. She's a horrible owner.
Yeah, well, yeah, granted. But I mean, if he even goes out there and in the beginning of the season, they're just even in a playoff spot in the first 20 games.
Yeah.
People are gonna be oh, well, okay, things aren't as bad as we thought they were because Simon's just dropping a couple 30 pieces.
It's a similar thing where I feel Poole maybe averaged too much the year before. Makes it hard to get it type of thing.
I mean, if he goes out and averages 40, then.
But Lowry even last year went from 16 to 28, something like that. But
that was a huge jump, though.
It was a big jump.
That the impact that he.
Yeah, he was a completely different player.
Yeah.
But Desmond Bane would probably be my pick. I just feel the Grizzlies without Ja, they need this guy to score. Before his ankle injury last year, he was averaging 26. The dude's a bucket getter, but his stats dropped back down.
Dude wants to beef with LeBron, bro.
It doesn't matter. He also has a very funny build.
Yeah, he does. He looks good. Did you see the Georgios Niang picture today?
Yeah, because 3 people tweeted it, the exact same tweet. This might be the craziest NBA player build I've ever seen.
Yeah.
All the time. But Desmond Bane, I think, is going to be the lead option pretty easily on that team.
Sure.
He's shown that in the preseason too, is scoring a lot of points. Tyler Hero could be a sneaky one if he takes the offensive jump that he's been playing at the preseason. Or Kuminga. Maybe it's a Kuminga year.
The comb buckets.
But I think most improved is always the hardest one to predict. You never really know what that's going to be.
Tyus Jones.
Maybe Cam Thomas actually gets minutes, and then he wins it just because he's going to score points if he's out there, type of thing.
Yeah.
But I think that's it for our Bold Predictions podcast. So,
a lot of bold
do you have anything you want to shout out?
We couldn't shout out Nestle spring water last time, so we got Wegmans spring water this time.
Yes.
Shout out sponsor us Wegmans.
Keep it in the Northeast. We're talking about Wegmans out here.
Yeah, keep it Wegmans. Shout out Jeremy Lin for future NBA player this year. He's coming back.
Yeah.
And do you want to shout out any players?
Yeah, shout out Keegan Murray, friend of the pod. I have to shout him out every time. But I don't have any other player love I need to give out, except for my boy Kai Jones.
Oh,
if you're watching this, Kai Jones, he's got infinity money and he's living that goat life. So
come give us some infinity money here.
Yeah.
Oh, also before we end, winner of the in-season tournament.
It has to be a team with a lot of minimum players because they want it the most.
Yeah.
The Suns are going to win the in-season tournament because those guys need the money. So I'll go with the Suns.
Okay, you know what? I think winner of the in-season tournament, Detroit Pistons.
Okay,
they're going to pull it off.
They're going to try hard. It's going to be Wiseman carrying the in-season tournament MVP, holding it up in the air. We're big Wiseman fans out here now.
And if you guys win, send us some of that cash that you guys don't need. But if you guys need it, like Buddy Boeheim on the Pistons,
you
can keep it. That's
all you. You and Marcus Sasser even, you can keep it. But Cade, maybe throw some our way.
Exactly.
Exactly. But thank you guys for watching. That's going to be it for us today. Bold predictions. We're ready for the season. 2 days. We're hype. It'll be 1 day when this comes out. So we're ready. About to come in. But thanks for watching. That's going to be it for us. On the road to 1 million. So,
road to 1 million.
Yeah. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.